Hey there, Sanka, everybody. Hope you guys are doing good. Today, I have someone who's really interesting, very cool, and someone who is in the industry that you want to know about the stocks and investing industry. I have here with me halal.investor. Also, his full name is Moez Maharez. You guys will see it pop up on your screen. A quick introduction about this brother is that he has graduated with one of the best universities in Canada, McGill University, with a major in economics and a minor in psychology. So he knows what's going on in your brain before you know what's going on in your brain. With a charter, and then he finished. After finishing that, he did a CFA, something that I was gonna do before I got into consulting, and then I kind of pushed it off. Still a good idea to get your CFA if you're fully going to be jumping in the investing industry. Um, he's currently working as an investment analyst, and the whole goal of his online presence is Islamic wealth, and you guys can check him out. I'll link all of his stuff in the description below, his Instagram and his TikTok, and if there's anything else, inshallah, I'll also link that. Probably his website. It's very cool and very interesting. So to get started, Moez, do you want to quickly give your introduction also, or do you think I did a justified amount?
No, man. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thanks, Ahmed, for the introduction. That's good. I just maybe add um, yeah, on the website, I only have kind of a few major articles that I focused on publishing there, and those are some of the I think the main concepts that I think are important for Muslims to understand in terms of thinking long term and how to think about investing. So feel free to check those out, specifically around time horizon, risk tolerance, and diversifying your investments. These are very, very important subjects to kind of grasp before you get into the markets and risking your money in the markets. But aside from the whole risk aspect, there's so much wealth to be gained, and especially if you have a long-term mindset. And my main thing from the beginning has always just been, if you are just have money sitting, there's just so many Muslims that have money sitting in bank accounts,
All the
and they
doctors.
don't exactly. It's sitting in a checking account because we don't want to earn interest, of course, right?
Subhanallah.
It's prohibited, but we don't have an alternative. So it's like at the same time we're worried about risking our money. So it's about getting the proper understanding on how to actually grow your wealth. We don't want our wealth to just sit in bank accounts because it's going to get destroyed by inflation, right? So
Exactly.
that's a big part of why I do what I do, is because our community has so much potential, so much wealth, and there's so much we can do with it.
Exactly, exactly, and this is very true what you said there. There's a lot of key points that you picked up there, which we're going to discuss later on in the podcast. But I think one very important thing is that we need to start understanding that there is options out there for us, and we should be getting involved, because if you think about it, if your money is just sitting around, it's not growing. Rather, inflation is decreasing the purchasing value of that money. So we need to be. I think it's something really important upon us to, for ourselves and our generations to come to use that money towards growth. So, Kat, let's get this thing started. What is the stock market and why is it important?
What is the stock market? So the stock market, not like what many people think, it's not a place for you to just put your money into a bunch of ticker symbols or letters for them to go up and down. It's not a lottery machine. The stock market is a place where you buy shares in companies to invest in them. So just as if you heard of a friend who started a startup, and you're curious as to how you can invest in their startup so that you can benefit when they grow and do something great. You can do the same thing in the stock market. You're just investing in more mature companies, or in companies that are already well established and available to the public. So it's basically a place where anybody, literally anybody who at least who's of the investing age, 18 and above, um, can basically buy shares in companies that have gone public, which means their shares are available to the public.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what the stock market is about, and that's what it's for. And it moves every day because there are millions of people making decisions every day, and their decisions don't have to affect your decisions. So that's a key thing to understand when looking at the stock market.
Yeah.
So it does fluctuate up and down a lot every day because of that idea, and that's important to keep in mind.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends or people who told me that their parents lost money in the stock market, and or they lost money by investing in their friend's restaurant and XYZ. And I'll have to say to them, you lost money in the stock market either because you didn't know what you were doing, or because you were gambling in essence. And if you're investing in that methods, like one of the brothers told me, like, oh, it was an index fund or it was an ETF and it was super volatile. Well, yeah, what you're putting your money inside is something that's super volatile. You don't know what it is. You haven't done any analysis, and you're just going on the voices of some other person's recommendation. So you're not really gonna gain much from it. Rather, you could probably potentially, because of the volatility, lose from it. So that's why it's very important that we understand what the stock market is and how we should be getting into it. Okay, so why is it something that why is the stock market something that we as Muslims should be interested in?
So the reason why I think Muslims should be getting into the stock market or looking at how different ways to invest in the stock market is because it's just a vast field of opportunities for you to find great investments, and it's one of the few halal ways for people to grow their wealth. Now, I'll touch upon the halal part in a second, but because that's important. But because not all investments or not all stocks are going to be halal.
Exactly.
But the point is, when you look at what the different options are, so I was just talking about how we have a lot of money sitting in checking accounts or just bank accounts that earn 0% interest. Well, other people do put their money in bank accounts that earn interest, and they do put their money in, for example, other safe investments like bonds. But these investments are not permissible for us Muslims. So they're at least able to keep their money safe while getting ahead and growing their wealth a little bit. This is one of the few alternatives that we have to not have our wealth fall behind on inflation. So it's really about finding the right way of thinking about how to look at the stock market, in my opinion, for the majority of people at least, which is why I think it's important for Muslims to look at the market. The number one reason for me is that the stock market in general represents economic growth.
Mm-hmm.
And it has gone up over the last, if you take any 3+ or 5 or 10 year period, you'll see that generally the stock market is up.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that if you go in with a long-term mindset that you're investing in the stock market long-term, or investing in companies that are in the market long-term, you're most likely going to grow your wealth. The odds are in your favor.
Yeah.
So you're actually putting your money at risk when you're leaving it in a safe bank account, because its value depreciates by 2 to 3% on a yearly basis because of inflation. So your real purchasing value of money actually goes down. So you're guaranteeing that you're doing that. But when you invest your money in the stock market with a long-term time frame, your probabilities of being not just profitable, but of maybe even doubling your money over a 10-year period is very high. So this is why I think it's important for Muslims to learn about different ways to invest in the markets.
Yeah, and I gotta agree with you on that. And I think another important point as to why it's important is because we gotta consider that income or wealth just sitting there is not generating anything, while on the other hand, somebody who is investing and who is trading is generating future wealth. Now, if we want our future generations to be stronger, and you want to be rich, or you want your kids to have a better future, or you want your kids to not worry about the halal mortgages and all XYZ, and buying a house and other expenses, then what, this is what we got to start thinking about now. Start trading and investing, right? Like for example, my brother had a child, and what he did was he started thinking about investing for her now, for her university, education XYZ. RESPs are good, but if you can trade on your own and understand your own how to trade and invest and stuff, and especially do it through the halal methods, then it's gonna be a lot more value. For example, if you just saved it in a little box for 18 years, it might not have been as valuable. It might have been just been $10,000, $20,000, but not because it's in investing and it's growing on those investments. It's be like something like 40, 41. It's all dependent on the stock market, but yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely, and to what you just said now about generational wealth.
yeah,
Some generation has to start it, and I think other communities already have already realized this not so secret
yeah,
that if you invest your money in the stock market or in other investments, you're creating wealth, and that wealth compounds over time.
yeah,
There's the concept of compound interest, which is not interest. I'm talking about compounding returns.
yeah,
This is a really, really like powerful phenomenon. It's a mathematical phenomenon, and it applies to money. So if you can grow this for your family over time, and then that stockpile will grow on top of itself for your grandkids
exactly.
and their kids after that. This is why there are people with huge farms, and you wonder like how do these people get this farm? How can they afford this farm?
Yeah,
It's because it's been around for generations,
exactly.
right? It's this kind of mentality that we need to have, and why this is important as Muslims. It's not just about for us to just be more wealthy and be have an easier time. From a Muslim mentality or from an Islamic perspective, having financial freedom for your family, having more Muslims that are financially free and have the option not to have to get a 9-to-5 job, for example, or go through the so-called system. That means you're going to have way more Muslims who can dedicate their time towards other causes.
Exactly.
Who can dedicate and have a more balanced life in general.
Yeah.
And just have a more balanced and spiritual life, right? Because sometimes poverty is I would argue that poverty is more disliked in Islam compared to being rich or compared to having wealth, because poverty causes a lot of problems. It causes a lot of crime. It causes people to steal. It causes so I think it's important to think about that. Now, of course, our beloved Prophet ﷺ lived with very little means, but this is because he chose to, and he did it for specific reasons. But it doesn't mean that it's a goal that we need to be poor. That's not the point, right? And also, there are many examples of Sahabas that have helped the Islamic cause because of their wealth, right? They were able to help the Muslims give da'wah, and when they had to fight, they were able to provide resources. And so there's a lot that can be said about wealth in general. It's just makes the world go around. So we need to understand it and how to use it for good benefits, for good causes.
Yeah, and I mean it's a blessing, and I mean we can go on this massive tangent of what wealth brings with it, and what type of mindset you should be, right? Like the mindset is of being as of a poor person, so you're humble, you're grounded, you're not your brain's not in the air, but having wealth and spending wealth for the right reasons is what's important. So Kat, I mean we can go on this tangent like crazy, but to focus this discussion on stocks. The next question is day trading. I got a lot of brothers asking me about, is day trading halal? How can I day trade? All this stuff. And I know you have a specific mindset about day trading and why you rather people invest rather than day trade. So Kat, the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So day trading, there are differences of opinion among scholars about whether day trading is halal or haram. So most scholars say that it's actually okay to do. The one issue that some scholars have is that when you're buying a stock and selling it the same day, you're not technically in possession of that stock from a transaction settlement point of view.
Exactly.
Because when you buy a stock, it takes 2 to 3 days for that transaction to settle. And so basically like 2 business days. So they're very focused on that technical aspect of the transaction needs to settle so that you can say you own this share of the company. So some scholars have an issue with that, but a lot of scholars just say, you know what, it's never an issue for you to sell those shares, and there's enough liquidity in the markets for you to ensure that you can buy and sell within the same day, and there's going to be no issues or potential conflicts, which is at the end of the day what Islamic finance is all about: reducing conflicts between individuals and transactions, right? So they believe that okay, it's fine. So that's the technical aspect. Now, whether or not you should do it, that's a matter of how much time you're willing to commit to day trading, because it does require a lot of time and skill. It takes people years to really master it. It's not something like you'll see all these videos on TikTok and Instagram. Follow my trading strategy. You'll make $4,000 a month or a week or something like that. Like it just, I don't know, it boggles my mind to see those. It makes me cringe a little bit, but I don't think it's that simple. It really does require a lot of focus and a lot of attention. You need to be in front of the screen and really keep up with what's happening, because day trading is fast. And then there's swing trading, which is a little bit less frequent. So day trading is buying and selling within the same day or 1 to 2 days. And then swing trading is more, a few days, a few weeks, or even a couple of months. So that's maybe less maintenance, and maybe you can pull it off, and it requires still some focus and studying of charts. But why I think the majority of people should just invest their money long term, because there's plenty of evidence out there that people who invest long term and forget about the companies that they invested in, as long as they are good companies, will make you a lot more money than if you day traded or if you traded within a short time frame. Because actually check my website, they have that article on time horizon and risk tolerance. You'll see that the probabilities of you being profitable within a day is like 50-50 essentially. Over longer periods of time, your probabilities of being profitable are very, very high. So that's the whole logic. You don't really have to do a lot. You just have to pick decent companies, at least companies that are solid, showing good growth. It doesn't really require a lot of high IQ. It just needs some basic common sense, and you'll likely do very well. You don't have to pick the absolute best winners. You just have to pick something that's decent and that's growing, and that will compound over time and do really well. You don't have to do a lot of work. It's passive. You sit back and you watch your wealth grow over time. Now, of course, it doesn't mean you don't touch them. Reevaluate if you hear something bad about the company that you invested in. Rethink whether or not you need to keep holding on to this company, or are there better alternatives. So that works, but it requires a lot less maintenance, I would say, than day trading, which is, I would say, like, you need to have that at least as a part-time, if not a full-time job. And then of course there's getting somebody to manage your money for you, right? With a portfolio manager or investment manager, or invest in a fund. It's still probably going to do very well if you're investing long term, right? All you need to do is put your money and let it grow.
And you need to find someone who knows what they're doing by experience and by intellect. And what I mean by that is experience that they've been trading for at least 3-5 years, whatever you feel comfortable with. And the second is intellect, is someone like our brother here who has education in the background to back up what he's when he's making a trade, which is very important, because it's very true what he said about day trading, because I've done it in the past, and it took me years and hours of research and self-learning and losing money, being very frank and honest initially, to understand, one, the formulas, the charts, the different analysis and patterns, then two, understanding myself emotionally on how I behave with certain movements in the market. And so, to take profit, not to take profit. I know there's points when I would be up by 50% on one trade, and then I wouldn't take profit, because the internal, the internal greed would kick in, and I'd be like, well, let's wait till 70% and then I'll sell. But I knew very well that even if I went to 70%, I wouldn't sell. So at some point I realized I need to follow a selling method, and that means even if it's in profits and even if it's at loss, I need to put in take profits, stop losses, all these things in place. Because if I let my emotions get good of me, I'm gonna fail. So it's very important that we go through that whole emotional aspect and the whole understanding aspect.
There's already going to be emotions, even if you're a long-term investor, right? But at least with long-term investing, the emotions are a lot less, because you have this idea that time is working in your favor. With day trading and fast, more short-term trading, time doesn't really work in your favor, because as soon as you have a loss, you either gotta implement that stop loss, cut your losses, or you gotta realize, okay, this is a good time for me to take some profit. So it's really like, if you're gonna do it, you really have to be ready to follow a disciplined method and find a way that works for you.
Yeah.
And it's, at the end of the day, it's a very different game than long-term investing. You're not really looking at you're looking less at company fundamentals and what a business is doing, and you're more just looking at the price action of a stock and taking advantage of the movements of the price based on what people are doing in the market, essentially. Yeah. And that's hard to predict. Yeah. It's actually a lot easier to predict where a stock will go in the long term than in the short term, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because short term, God knows, right? Anything can happen. Tomorrow we can have, Joe Biden will say something, or, Trump will come out and say, I'm running for president or something, and something random will happen in the markets, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is the reason I have a lot of people who have sent me messages or who put in the comments, you only release one, first guide, introductory guide to stock investing. And that's on purpose, because I want you guys to do paper trading, and that's exactly what that guide is talking about, is the concept of paper trading and initial investment techniques. And so they're like, where's the second guide? Where's the third guide? And I'm like, it's on purpose you're not coming out yet, because I don't want you guys to be jumping and leapfrogging and losing money. It's very important that we understand ourselves as to, how to invest, how to trade, and how we are with finances. And it's not something that could be leapfrogged very easily. I know there's people who would be like, oh no, you just follow our stuff. No, when somebody sends you a ticker, you still need to understand what that ticker means. When he says take profit at a certain point, you need to understand all this stuff. So Carrie, that's why I'm a strong believer of getting your foot into the market as a paper trader initially, learning in a few months, and then slowly merging towards the real market while learning the technical and fundamental analysis technique. Now, I am going to get into the analysis techniques after, but I think next thing I want to talk to you about quickly about is, actually, I want to introduce the rapid fun fire round. So I want to show you guys, people who are making halal wealth are not just boring, right? I've said this before. And Moez is a fun guy. I mean, there's some fun facts about him that you guys don't know, I do know. But we can't get into those details, but we can talk about a few things. So, let's see which question is gonna. Okay,
Hit me.
Your favorite type of food?
Oh, lasagna.
Lasagna, Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha?
Eid al-Fitr.
Bicep curls or chest press?
Chest press.
Okay. 2000. Okay, so I'm gonna jump over to some just words, and I just want you to get your first reaction. Okay.
Okay.
2008 market crash.
Financial markets crash. Bond markets.
Bond market. Conventional banking.
Interest.
Haram police.
Kufi. I don't
know. Elon Musk.
Doge.
Okay. Biryani or shawarma?